ego hodie, ego hodie, genui, genuite, Dominus dixit.
Well, Jim, welcome to Pepperdine University, to Malibu, and to the Weisman Museum.
Oh, it's great to be here. What a beautiful setting for the St. John's Bible.
Well, you brought a beautiful Bible. Now, why don't you explain exactly what is the St. John's Bible and how did this project come about?
Yeah, the St. John's Bible is the very, very first handwritten, hand-illuminated Bible that's been done in over 500 years. That's been commissioned by Benedictine monks. So when the printing press came along, there was no need to have monks scribing away, making handwritten Bibles. So the monks at St. John's, in about 1998, actually commissioned this first handwritten Bible, and it was meant to be a gift to the world in celebration of the 21st century. So how better way than to celebrate the roots of the Benedictine tradition than to donate and dedicate a Bible that is made using the same tools as the scribes used to use, that is goose quill and reed pens and vellum, calfskin, but do so in a contemporary way. That is, the illuminations are all contemporary and they speak to the themes and issues of the 21st century.
Well, it certainly looks very modern and very traditional in a certain way. Now, was it made by the monks at St. John's?
It wasn't made by the monks. Actually, Donald Jackson, who's the scribe to the Queen of England, has had a long relationship with St. John's. And discussions actually began in 1996. And the discussion was basically, what would you think if I led an effort to create the first handwritten Bible? And so the monks at St. John's spent about 2 years talking about it, and then in 1998 pulled the trigger and decided to commission him. So it's a multi-million-dollar effort that we're 12 years into the project, and Donald Jackson has 6 of the 7 volumes that make up the St. John's Bible complete. 1 more year to go.
Now, Jackson didn't do all of the work himself, I understand.
He did not. He designed the script, he did most of the overall design work, did a lot of the calligraphy and a number of the illuminations, but there were 5 other scribes and there were 5 other illuminators. And the illuminators came from the UK as well as from the United States.
So it really was a joint international project to get this Bible done.
Absolutely. It was joint in a lot of ways in that the scholars that contributed to the project came from Catholic, Protestant, Jewish backgrounds. The artists came from a variety of faiths. Donald Jackson is actually an Anglican living in Wales and working together with the Catholics at St. John's University. So the ecumenical and interfaith aspect of this is a huge foundational piece for the St. John's Bible.
And I guess you must have been surprised as you began to see this project kind of come to realization.
It's amazing, actually. What's amazing is how it's drawn so many people to the beautiful illuminations from all walks of life. It's been amazing in that it's been a lot more work than anyone thought. This project was originally supposed to be done in 2007, and yet there was an awful lot of scholarship and an awful lot of creativity that went into it. Much like the Benedictine cathedrals back in medieval days took a lot longer than anyone thought. But the end result is a beautiful work of art that we think will stand the test of time. The Benedictines are thinking ahead 1,000 years. They want people 1,000 years from now to be able to look at this and get a sense for what were the issues of the day at the beginning of the 21st century.
Well, we have a page here. Do you want to say something about this particular page?
Yeah, this is a fairly typical, striking, beautiful, vivid color illumination of the St. John's Bible. It's the beginning of Ecclesiastes. And one of the themes of the St. John's Bible that's really interesting is the embracing of science and discovery. And so the imagery that you see in the background actually is inspired by imagery taken by the Hubble telescope as a way to celebrate and speak to the infinity of God. You have this beautiful Islamic timepiece. You've got the blackbird, which is representative of the Benedictine faith and Benedictine order. The other interesting thing about the St. John's Bible is there are lots of clues for future generations where they'll be able to figure out, who did this, who was responsible for it, where was it made. So, for instance, the little Benedictine's traditions of the blackbird tells you it's a Benedictine order that did this. The flora and fauna throughout the St. John's Bible is indigenous to the state of Minnesota, so it gives you a sense for where it was commissioned. There's also other timepieces, time capsules, if you will. The genealogy of Jesus in the beginning of Matthew actually shows the link between Jesus and Abraham using the double helix DNA. And so that places it in time as well, because the DNA was not really discovered until the 1950s.
Well, I notice also your beautiful butterfly wings, and it looks like there's actual gold and silver on the surface.
Yes, on the original, what we're looking at right now is the Heritage Edition. The Heritage Edition is a limited edition fine art version of the original. The original pages are not actually bound yet. They're actually still in rectangular sheets of vellum that have 2 pages per sheet, and they'll eventually be bound in 2016. This is a fine art reproduction that was also art directed by Donald Jackson. And in this case, the printing was done on cotton paper, and then a later operation actually added the silver and the gold. Would you like me to go to another page?
Yes, why don't we?
So if you go to, all of the original of this was done by hand. It's also the first handwritten illuminated Bible that was done in English. And so if you go back to the medieval manuscripts, of course they were all done in Latin. This is a beautiful illumination that was done by Suzanne Moore out in the state of Washington. You can kind of get a sense for the different type of illuminations. There's 6 different artists. Each one has their own sort of look and feel. And then this is a beautiful illumination coming up. It's, we call her Wisdom Woman. And this was modeled after a photograph that Donald Jackson had of a Middle Eastern woman that he had in his studio for 25 years, and he always wanted to use it. And this was sort of the ideal illumination and picture for this. And the story behind this is our culture today says beauty is a 20-year-old. And what this is really saying is no, beauty is what comes with the age, wisdom, and experience of an older woman. And it's just a beautiful illumination. You've got the lunar, the phases of the moon on the perimeter, and you've also got more illuminations inspired by the Hubble telescope.
That's great. You know, Jim, as an art historian, as the director of the Weisman Museum, I really appreciate the way that this project has really taken the tradition of the Bible and truly did bring it into the 21st century. I think we have time for one more question. So what would you like visitors to come away with in this experience?
Well, I think the Bible is, we've got the Bible lecture series going on at Pepperdine University. The Archbishop of Canterbury had a great quote when he looked at the St. John's Bible. And one of the things he said was, so much of what we do today, we read voraciously, headlines come and go, we don't spend a lot of time. And what this book, the St. John's Bible, does is it shows another way, that we just sort of chew on the words and reflect and spend time reflecting. And that's exactly what this lecture series does, and that's exactly what the St. John's Bible does. So it's a great fit.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much, and thanks for being here.
No, thank you. It's our pleasure.